In the late 1700s, mental illnesses were not recognized, and anyone who committed crimes, caused annoyances, or posed threats were just imprisoned without any investigation into the mental well-being of the individual. In 1773, Governor and Chief Administrative Officer Francis Fokker struggled to accept the idea that innocent humans might be put in jail, so he resolved to open the first mental hospital called the Public Hospital for Persons of Insane and Disordered Minds. Though he did not want to see the mentally ill go to jail, his primary concern was not in treating them. The main goal of the new hospital was to keep them off the streets so that they could not harm the community. Soon, other hospitals opened as well. These facilities and treatments for the mentally ill were often crude and barbaric. Those in charge did not have proper knowledge on mental illnesses and therefore could not properly treat their patients. Treatments included solitary confinement, conditioned fear of doctors, drugs, bleeding, shackles, and plunge baths. Each of these so-called treatments have since been proven to actually have detrimental effects on the mentally ill. By the 1840s, hospitals began to change their methods and conditions due to protests and new perspectives on people with mental illnesses. In 1841, Dorothea Dix took a job teaching inmates at East Cambridge Prison where she was a first-hand witness to the inhumane treatment of prisoners. She soon became determined to improve these terrible conditions. Dix then began to teach at the Sunday school there. The mentally ill were kept in the same places as the violent criminals. She went to court to demand heat and other improvements for the living conditions.
Dorothea Dix was born in Hampton, Maine in 1802. She moved to Boston to live with her wealthy grandmother at the age of 12 in 1814. Dix began teaching school at age 14 and later became a school teacher, establishing her own elementary school in 1821 out of her grandmother's home. In 1824, she published several works such as Conversations on Common Things, or Guide to Knowledge with Questions. Beginning in 1836, age 34, Dix suffered from episodes of illness which ultimately ended her teaching career. She suffered from depression at times and experienced a type of mental breakdown during her sickness. She was referred by her doctor to travel to England for her health. In England, she met Samuel Tuke, founder of York Retreat for Mentally Ill, and when she returned to Boston in 1837, she used her family inheritance to commit to charity work and reform work.
Dogged, starved, and abused. She compiled the information she gathered to present a proposal to the all-male Massachusetts legislature. Dix demanded an increase in the budget to expand the state mental hospital at Worcester specifically. However, Dix wanted to have a broader impact, greater than just policy change on the state level. This trend of improving insane asylums occurred not only in Massachusetts, but in other states as well. Dix also tackled reform on the national level. She gathered information from asylums around the country and campaigned for humane conditions nationwide. Part of Dix's plan for reform was to create specialized wings for the mentally ill at pre-existing hospitals. This was accomplished in 14 states. In 1838, Dix lobbied Congress to grant at least 12 million acres of land as a public endowment for the benefit of the mentally ill, blind, and deaf. This new land would allow for more hospitals to be built. The proposal was approved by Congress to Dix's satisfaction. However, President Franklin Pierce vetoed the bill thereafter. Ultimately, Dix used first-hand observations to create reports that would expose the truth regarding the treatment of patients. She used these reports as evidence when lobbying for change with the government, both at a state and national level.
The facts and evidence that she documented during her visits, Dorothea was able to publicize and expose the abusive treatment and inhumane conditions of the prisons. Her findings shocked legislators and consequently sparked change to improve conditions for the imprisoned and the insane. She shamed political leaders into taking action, and her efforts led to improvements in the facilities of state mental hospitals across the state, most notably in Worcester. Not only did she contribute to the expansion of over 30 mental hospitals, but she also challenged the idea that the mentally ill couldn't be helped. She proposed the idea that the government should uphold responsibility for the mentally ill. Her efforts led to the creation of asylums, where finally the insane had facilities that were separate from violent criminals and were offered more support. Her beliefs were radical for the time, however she changed attitudes surrounding the mentally ill. Dix was an instrumental leader for reform of mental asylums both on the state and national level. The conditions of prisons and insane asylums have greatly improved since the mid-1800s due to the work of Dorothea Dix, and therefore she is the figure that helped to bring the biggest change at this time.